episode of Sloppy Saturdays, and today we are going over this absolutely absurd college football slate for Week 5. This might literally be one of the best slates we have seen in the last 10 years. Like, this slate is jam-packed. I love this slate personally because it's going to tell us a lot about some of these teams. There are so many teams we're going to talk about as we go over each big-time game that just have not been tested yet. And we're going to see what they're really about in this game. If each team can hang, what teams are going to come out victorious. We're going to talk about all of it. Now, throughout these big matchups, we're going to go over which spread we like, and we're also going to preview the game a little bit as well. This is very different from how we usually do previews. We usually go over the spreads that we personally like. I'm going to be telling you the spreads for each big game because I want to preview these big games as well and give my thoughts on it, because I know in this insane slate, you guys are going to be taking these big games for sure. That's what you're going to be watching. You're not going to be watching these smaller type games and in a insane slate like this. So let's get right into it. We're going to get into the 12 o'clock games. The first game that we're going to get into is USC Illinois. Now, Illinois is a plus 6.5 point dog at home. And I think this spread is all based on timing, not based on the two teams. When we look at USC has been a pretty sexy team to watch when you look at how their offense is ran. This is really the first time Lincoln Riley since Oklahoma has had a run game with Wade Jordan. It has looked really good. They have two NFL receivers on the outside, in Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, and Jordan Mailata has been slinging it. Like, it has looked really appealing to the eye to watch USC. Now, I'm not impressed with USC's defense still. Again, I think it took a huge jump last year, and I think it's right around the same as last year. I don't think this defense has massively improved. When we look at last week's game, they did let up 31 points to Michigan State. I do believe Michigan State has some talent on their offense. I think Aiden Childs is a really solid quarterback, and I think Nick Marsh is a really solid receiver as well. But when we look at Michigan State, they don't have the depth of a top 25 team. That shouldn't have happened with USC's defense. Not only that, we saw USC also let up 20 points against Georgia Southern. Should never happen as well. Then when you get into Illinois got absolutely popped in front of the whole entire country. Last week, they lose by 53 points in a ranked matchup. Now, in my opinion, like I said, I think the spread really comes out at a 6.5 point spread due to timing. Like, there's no doubt Illinois got absolutely popped, but that could have been just a bad matchup for Illinois. Or that could have been Indiana really being a top 10, top 12 team in the country. Like, they were a college football playoff team last year. They do look like they got better. Fernando Mendoza has been absolutely slinging it. They have weapons on the outside with a run game. Defense looked phenomenal. Like, they absolutely dominated Illinois in the trenches. But Illinois is still a well-balanced, really good football team. And what have we seen from USC to say they're at the level of an Indiana yet? I haven't seen anything of that. So I think, again, like how USC has been on the offensive side of the ball, what they have, them being like a more sexier team to watch, how they have looked, I don't think they have proved anything necessarily. I just think, again, they're getting hyped because they haven't played anybody. And a team like Illinois that got tested and failed against a team that, again, could be a top 12 team in the country, they're getting 6.5 points. I really think a lot of the country is going to get tricked by the spread. I think Illinois and USC are closer than you think. And I think Indiana might just be a step above both of them. In conference matchup, 6.5. Again, like I said, USC has been hyped because their offense has looked really pretty. Illinois just got popped in front of the whole country. I think a lot of people are going to get tricked on this spread. I think Illinois, like I said, is a very good, well-balanced football team on both sides of the ball. They just met their maker, and I think they got dominated. It was a bad matchup for them. But I think Illinois plus 6.5 is way too many points in this game. Like I said, Illinois is home in an in-conference matchup as a top 25 team. That's still a very good football team. And USC just flat out hasn't been tested yet. And I don't think USC is going to cause Illinois that many fits on defense as Indiana did. I think Indiana has a way better defense than USC. I don't think we have really been proved that this USC defense is a top 15 defense in the country. Like, I do not see that. Again, their offense is really good. USC is definitely looking different this year, really, in my opinion, because of the run game. Like, Waymon Jordan has 443 rushing yards this season. in the 4 games they played. Like, they haven't had that run game in a multitude of years. In my opinion, like, I do think USC is going to win this game outright, but I think 6.5 points is way too much. I can see this game getting tough. And again, Illinois, like I said, also got completely popped in front of the whole country. I think they're going to come out again with some dignity. I like Illinois plus 6.5 again. I don't think this would ever be a 6.5 point spread if it didn't come at this exact moment where, again, USC hasn't been tested and Illinois just got popped in the previous week. Now we're going to get into Notre Dame, Arkansas. Now, for me, this is a pretty tricky game. I'm going to give you what spread I like personally, but I don't know if I'm going to actually back the spread on my own. So, again, I do like saying that beforehand because, again, I don't want to give you guys actual spreads that I am not personally backing, but I do want to give which spread that I do like for all these big games. Again, you guys could take it, you guys don't, but again, in this huge slate, I want to give you which side I do like. Now, Notre Dame, Arkansas, this is a very weird game to me because I believe both teams are going to be hungry. When we look at the way Arkansas has lost in multiple one-score games, they were up big against Memphis. They fumbled the football, which looked like was going to be an easy field goal win. Absolutely heartbreaking loss. And then when we go to Notre Dame, like, there is no doubt Notre Dame needs this win. They have 2 losses. Even as an independent team, if they finish with 2 losses, they are not guaranteed a college football playoff spot. But the one thing I do like about Notre Dame, if they were able to finish the season with 2 losses, they played both their games very tight, 2 one-score games. Arkansas has one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now, one of the most physical gifted quarterbacks in the country. We have told you guys in our offseason preview that we thought Taylor Green was going to be able to take this jump. What he's able to do, running the football and throwing the football, like, again, one of the best dual threats in the country. This is a guy with basically 1,500 yards in 4 games. Absolutely ridiculous. I do think Notre Dame does have a lot on their hands to deal with for sure. Like, I would not be overlooking this game if I'm Notre Dame. SEC out-of-conference matchup. Notre Dame is away. But again, in my opinion, I think Notre Dame, even though Taylor Green is one of the most prolific talents in the country, I think Notre Dame is a lot deeper. I think they're better in the trenches. And I think they can play this game the way they want to play it. I think they're going to run through their run game, through their 2 backs, Price and Love. And I think they have to be very methodical. I don't think they want to be in another shootout again. They lost 2 shootouts already. I think if they play through their run game, they're deeper in the trenches. And again, Taylor Green is a guy with 4 picks in 4 games as well. Maybe force a big turnover. I think Notre Dame is a much deeper team. I think Notre Dame as a program needs this game more. Like, again, Arkansas didn't have huge expectations going into the year. Notre Dame, as sort of a program as they are, I think they're going to come away with this game. Me personally, I would take the Notre Dame minus 4.5, even though I'm not in love with the number. Notre Dame needs this game. Again, I wouldn't overlook this game if I'm Notre Dame. This is a very tough matchup for them. Again, out-of-conference SEC matchup. Arkansas can really run the table in a shootout. I would not want to get in a shootout. I would rely on your run game. And again, just don't make mistakes. I think Notre Dame is going to come out with this game. I think they need this game probably. Again, possibly more than anybody in the country right now. Then we get into the 3 o'clock slate. First game we start off with is Ohio State, Washington at Washington. Now, I think this game is very, very tricky. I think a lot of casuals are going to be hammering this Ohio State minus 7.5, minus 8.5, whatever it's at right now. And I don't think that's the way to go at all. We saw this is the shortest spread of a number 1 ranked team against an unranked opponent. And I believe Washington, why they're not even in the conversation of being ranked, is just because the AP poll doesn't stay up for these late games. This Washington offense is absolutely prolific. When you look at dual threat quarterbacks, Demon Williams is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. When we look at Demon Williams, he does have the second best QBR right now in the country. I get they haven't really played much talent, but I love this Washington offense. And again, very similar situation is I don't know if Ohio State's going to want to get in a shootout with Julian Sayin. I think it's going to be very similar to the Texas game where they play conservative. They give Julian Sayin very easy throws. Again, Julian Saint is a guy with like an 80% completion percentage nearly right now. But like I said, I am not buying into that because in the Ohio State Texas game, we saw him pretty rough. Then he plays a couple of cupcakes, and his completion percentage goes all the way up. So I'm not completely buying into that yet. When we look at Washington at home, they have one of the best players in the entire country in Jonah Coleman, a guy with 9 touchdowns, 347 yards in 3 games. Absolutely sensational. They have one of the best outside weapons in the country in Denzel Boston, has 3 touchdowns, 249 yards in 3 games. Like, this Washington game is very, very tricky. I would not overlook Washington. I would not just click the button for -7.5 for Ohio State. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think this Washington team could really score with anybody, including Ohio State. I think they're going to be able to put up points. Now, again, we saw Arch Manning get tricked by Matt Patricia, but I think it's going to be a very different offense for Matt Patricia to go against in this Washington team. When you look at Jonah Coleman being one of the best running backs in the country, when you look at Demon Williams being a true dual threat quarterback, I think it's going to be a lot of RPO game, and I don't think it's going to be as much Demon Williams getting tricked by Matt Patricia because I think they're going to rely heavy on this run game. I think it's going to be a complete different matchup. I wouldn't go by that game. If you want to go by that game, I would go by it in the sense of I think Ohio State's offense is going to be very conservative. Between an explosive run game with Washington and an Ohio State offense, I think is going to be pretty conservative. Like, do I think Ohio State is going to win this game? Yes, I do think they're going to win it outright. But I think this game is going to be very close, and I would lean to Washington plus 8.5. Like, this Washington team is super sneaky, and not only that, you're giving Julian Saint's first road test, and this Washington environment is not no environment to sneeze at. It's a pretty good college football environment. Like, I think this Washington team has a ton of talent. I like their coaching staff. I like their offense. Again, do I think they have the defense of Ohio State? No, I think that's going to be the difference, getting a big stop at the end of the game. But Julian Saint's first road test, this Washington offense that has a ton of talent that's going to be able to put up points. I do think they cover the 8.5. I don't think they win outright. But again, I want to see Julian Saint, if he could bring this 70, 80% completion percentage into this game. That's what I really want to see. But I think this Ohio State offense is going to be conservative, and I think this Washington team could score points for anybody. Like I said, Jonah Coleman is one of the best players in the entire country. Demon Williams has the second best QBR in the country right now. Like, this is going to be a tough game. This is not a game that I would overlook. I'm super excited to see how that game plays out for sure. Then we get into the next matchup, LSU Ole Miss. Now, I was going to do a separate video on this, but I'm just going to go over everything right now. We talked about how the QB controversy between Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, and Austin Simmons. Now, I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin made the complete right decision going with Trinidad Chambliss because I believe this is the spot where Trinidad Chambliss is going to get truly tested. Trinidad Chambliss has been one of the hottest QBs in the entire country. He has multiple games now where he started having 400 combined yards. He's a threat in the run game, threat in the pass game. He looked like nothing has fazed him. Now, this is a Trinidad Chambliss that has played Arkansas, has played Tulane. Again, not top opponents, but no opponents to sneeze at. And he has played extremely well. They are at home. The reason why I like them going with Trinidad Chambliss, one, like I said, I don't know how healthy Austin Simmons truly is. And I believe they could use that as an excuse as riding with Trinidad Chambliss. And this is Trinidad Chambliss' test now, going into his last year, a Division II player coming out of nowhere. Like, I think they made the right decision, riding with the hot hand for sure in this LSU matchup. And I really like Ole Miss. The reason why I like Ole Miss is this Ole Miss offense has showed up in every single game. Again, they haven't been truly tested against a top 5, top 10 opponent in LSU. This LSU defense is going to be something different, but this offense has showed up in every game. When they needed to, they showed up in every single game like they were supposed to. Against an Arkansas team that is an easy matchup, they show up, score 40-plus points. Against a Tulane team, one of the best non-Power 4 teams, they score 40 points. We haven't seen that from LSU. LSU is coming off a 50-point game against a cupcake, but in closer matchups, they haven't showed up. For some reason, something in me, I can't explain it. I want to ride this fairy dust. I want to ride Trinidad Chambliss. He has looked really good. Ole Miss is at home. You're getting them at a pick-em line. I absolutely love it. And like I said, I didn't say letdown spot for LSU. There's something missing from this LSU team. I cannot explain it. There's something just missing for me. Garrett Nussmeier hasn't looked as good as we thought. The offense just hasn't looked as good as we thought. And Ole Miss offense has been showing up. And again, like I said, there's just something special about Trinidad Chambliss right now that I can't deny. You're getting a pick-em line at home. I think these teams in general are a lot closer than people think. I'm going Ole Miss money line. Again, not something that I really have much explanation behind. I'm just riding out this Trinidad Chambliss Ole Miss game. I think he's the real deal. For some reason, I think this is one of those guys that just came out of nowhere. I think he's the real deal. I think he's got guts. I'm riding with Ole Miss. Then we're going with Auburn, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is at home in one of the crazy environments. Texas A&M minus 6.5-point favorites. This Auburn team, I've told you guys, I really like. I think they're a well-balanced team. I like Jackson Arnold. I like Eric Singleton. I think Cam Coleman is one of the best receivers in the country. I think his statistics don't show how much of an impact he has, how much pass interference calls he draws. I really like this Auburn team. I think they're well-balanced. This Texas A&M team, we have said it time and time again, they are one of my favorite teams in the country this year. Marcel Reed, I believe, is developing as a quarterback, as he has one of the most explosive offenses in the country. When we look at Mario Craver, he's arguably been the best player in the country. His statistics are absolutely ridiculous. When we look at 443 yards in 3 games, four touchdowns. And when you go on the opposite side of the ball, another number one as well. This Texas A&M offense with Le'Veon Moss too. Oh my God. This Texas A&M offense, I've said it time and time again, they're super explosive. Again, we are looking at two completely different teams. A Texas A&M team that could throw for 350 yards a game with 2 X's, and an Auburn team that does like to run the football with Jackson Arnold. My opinion on this game, again, like I said, I believe Auburn is very overlooked. I thought Auburn played a great game last week. Now, again, it came out that John Mateer was playing with a broken hand. I did not know that. I didn't think many viewers out of their eye could really see that as well. Oklahoma does come out with the win there. But again, there was a touchdown that should have been called back. They did lose by 1 score. I think this Auburn team is super impressive. I think 6.5 points is just too many points. Again, as much as I do love this Texas A&M team, I think this Auburn team is really a borderline top 25 team in the country, and I do think they could keep this game close. Again, I'll be rooting for Texas A&M for sure. I love this offense, but I think it's close. And then you go to Indiana, Iowa. Indiana minus 8.5. In my opinion, Indiana, I've said it time and time again, I want to see this team truly get tested. They play Penn State. They play Oregon. I want to truly see this team beat an elite team. I don't want to see the same thing as last year. Them bouncing around the Big Ten with 2 losses, getting in the college football playoffs. I don't want to see the same story. It's time for them to take the next step. They play Iowa. This spread is tricky. I do not know how Iowa keeps up on offense with Indiana. I just don't see it. But Iowa is at home in conference matchup. I believe this is a letdown spot for Indiana. I think a lot of people are going to be hammering Indiana after that 53-point win. And like I said, for some reason to me, I think Iowa keeps it within the spread. I would take Iowa plus 8.5. Again, I'm not going to touch this game. But if I were to have to pick, I would take Iowa plus 8.5. I think this is just a letdown spot for Indiana. Now we're going to get into the game I want to talk about. Let me get a drink first because this is a game I have a lot to say. This is a game I think there's only one side to take. And for the public taking the other side, I think you're absolutely insane. Now, again, I hate when the public, the media, people make me go on the opposite side of a team I really do like. I want to talk about this Oregon team for a second. I think this Oregon team is elite. I think they are one of the best 6-7 teams in the country. I think they're a national championship contender. I love Dan Lanning. I think the offense is super talented. I think they have 3 backs that are really, really good. I think Dante Moore has looked super impressive. For me personally, I think he's looked very impressive because what he's able to do with his arm, I get it. He hasn't played anybody, but again, not relying on his legs. We know he can do that. His arm has been phenomenal. The Corey Moore has came on a lot quicker than I thought. I thought it was a possibility for sure because he reminds me of a guy very similar to Jackson Smith-Njigba, one of the best players in the country when he played. But the Corey Moore, a slot guy, a guy with speed, a guy with great routes, that's a guy that translates, and he has been translating. Kenyon Sadiq, I do really like as well as a top weapon. He's a guy that's going to go in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft, in my opinion. A mismatch. Against linebackers, I think he's too fast. Against secondary players, I think he's too big. I think he's a great number 1 option. The defense has been good, but again, they haven't played anybody. My issue with this Oregon team is they're just getting too hyped too fast, in my opinion. For people to think that this Oregon team at this moment is better than last year's, I think is absolutely absurd. I think it's pretty insane to say that. When we look at Dillon Gabriel being a complete veteran in college football, where Dante Moore got absolutely blasted at UCLA and is playing good football, learned under Dillon Gabriel, hasn't played anybody. I think Dillon Gabriel is way more prepared for the moment. I think Dillon Gabriel had a phenomenal season last year. I think there was nothing that really could confuse him. As a pure passer, I thought he was phenomenal last year. A guy that was at the Heisman podium, where Dante Moore could be. But again, I want to preference this. I think Dante Moore is way more talented than Dillon Gabriel. There's no doubt at his size, what he's able to do with his legs, his arm. He's way more talented. I think at the end of the day, at the end of their careers, Dante Moore, when he goes into the NFL, is going to be way more suited than Dillon Gabriel is, although I love Dillon Gabriel. But last year at that point, the veteran Dillon Gabriel is where he is in FBS passing yards. Dillon Gabriel was a better quarterback last year than Dante Moore is at the start of this year, without a doubt, in my opinion. Then when you look at the offense, they had 2 X's last year. They had Tez Johnson, that was one of the best receivers in the country. I know where he went in the NFL draft. Again, he was not going to be as good as an NFL player as he was as a college player, but no doubt one of the best receivers in the country last year. They had Evan Stewart, who's, again, another number 1 X receiver, who they were supposed to have this year. If they had Evan Stewart, maybe I would feel a little bit different. And then they had Trajan Holden last year, who's also an NFL receiver. Jordan James, who's an NFL back. They had arguably the deepest tight end room in the country when you look at Terrence Ferguson, how high he got drafted, Patrick Herbert, an undrafted free agent. And then they also had Kenyon Sadiq again. Like, this offense was way deeper, way more experienced than this year's. So the fact that we're going to say that this Oregon team could possibly be better than last year's, again, when we get to the end of the season, how this offense develops, possibly they could go farther. Because, again, this Oregon team got tested in the beginning of the year against Ohio State, and they were prepared to complete that test. Now this Oregon offense is completely different. Like I said, Kenyon Sadiq steps into a number 1 type role where that wasn't his role last year. The Corey Moore they're relying on as a freshman. They have a new quarterback in Dante Moore. And they got to go on the road in Penn State in a whiteout. This Penn State team has an identity to win. They have way more experienced talent than this Oregon team has. They have a quarterback in Drew Aller that they have been rolling with in their 3rd year. They have 2 running backs that they have been rolling with, 2 NFL running backs in 3 years, a veteran offensive line, a defense that's coming back with more experience. Like, again, in a whiteout, to test this offense, they're not going to be able to go under center. I mean, they're not going to be able to go in shotgun. They're going to have to go under center for a majority of this game. Again, do I believe necessarily that James Franklin needs to have this win? No. He hasn't had wins against big opponents, but it's going to come within the season. But I believe Penn State, this was a year where they pushed their chips to the table with the amount of people they were able to bring back. I believe they're the better team. They know their identity. They're going to have this environment backing them up. Arguably the biggest environment in college football, a whiteout Penn State game. I believe it's a no-brainer. Penn State minus 3.5. This is too early of a test for Oregon. Penn State, we know what they got. I absolutely love it. Then the last game I got to go through quick. Alabama, Georgia. It's a 3.5 point spread. I like Alabama plus 3.5. I think if you get 3 points in this SEC matchup, that's always very close. I'm taking Alabama. I can't explain it. Alabama was horrible last year, and they came up for this game and won this game. I like going with the spread in Alabama plus 3.5. Again, like I said, I had to wrap up this video pretty quick because I do have something after this. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays. Drop down your comments below if you agree with me, disagree with me on a lot of these spreads. We are looking at one of the best college football slates we have ever seen. I hope you guys are enjoying this with your boys. Having some drinks either at a bar, at a house. Enjoy the games. Be safe. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays, and